Hello, everyone, and welcome to Art in the Spotlight with Quentin VerCetty and Umbereen Inayet. Quentin and Umbereen, welcome. My name is Kathleen McLean. I'm the Assistant Curator of Talk Programs here at the Art Gallery of Ontario. And whenever we gather, even in a virtual space, we begin by considering where we are and the responsibilities we have as either guests or hosts on this territory, and our responsibilities as treaty people. The AGO operates on land that is the territory of the Anishinaabe Mississauga Nation and was also the territory of the Wendat and the Haudenosaunee. The Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant is an agreement between the Haudenosaunee Confederacy and the Anishinaabe Three Fires Confederacy to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. Toronto is also governed by a treaty between the federal government of Canada and the Mississaugas of the Credit Anishinaabe Nation. So thank you to Quentin and Umbereen for coming together to have this conversation today. If anybody is joining us right now who has questions for Quentin, there's a Q&A function at the bottom of the screen that you can use, and we'll try to get to them towards the end of the talk. Before I introduce Quentin and Umbereen, I'd also like to say thank you to the TD Ready Commitment, our lead sponsor of talks and performances, for generously supporting this talk. So, Quentin VerCetty is an award-winning visual storyteller, art educator, and graduate of OCAD University. His work uses speculative narratives like Afrofuturism to address issues of representation, immigration, decolonization, and the lack of what he calls PDAA, public displays of appreciation for Africans. Quentin's work has been shown around the world, in Mexico, Haiti, Peru, Australia, the United Arab Emirates, Germany, and his passion for artivism, using art as a tool for social change, led him to start the Canadian chapter of the Black Speculative Arts Movement in Toronto in 2016, which has since spread across the country. And through his work, he hopes to engage minds and inspire hearts to help to make the world a better place, not only for today, but for many tomorrows to come. And Umbereen Inayet is an artistic producer and curator with a master's degree in social work from the University of Toronto and an undergraduate degree in cultural anthropology and women's studies. Umbereen has been an artistic producer for Nuit Blanche Toronto for over a decade, working on enormously massive, large-scale projects with artists, curators, and studios, including, but not limited to, Ai Weiwei, Bill Viola, John Akumfra, Director X, Drake, Floria Sigismondi, House, Daniel Arsham, El Cid, and JR. So basically, we have two powerhouses in the house today, and I'm so excited to hear your conversation. So I'm going to vanish, and you're going to take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Kathleen. Thank you so much, AGO, for having us here. Super excited. And I cannot wait to speak to you, my friend, Quentin. How are you?
I'm blessed. Greetings, wagwan, and bonjour, everybody.
Oh my God. It's an honor to be sitting with you. I feel like I'm with, like, you know, the rock star of Toronto. So I'm very lucky to be calling you my friend. You and I have been working together on some secret projects this year through osmosis, through friendship, and through, I don't know, the universe bringing us together. And I've, through that process, been able to learn so much more about you. And I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of who you are. You're such a kind soul, like legit, such a kind soul. And you're one of the hardest working artists I know. Even when you're sick, and I know you've been sick, you have been literally on your computer all day, all night. So thank you for being here. It's an honor. I truly respect you, not only your work, but as a person. And can I just talk about your walls? Like, what is, okay, can I just tell you where I am right now? I am in Scarborough at my parents' house. Like, this is where I grew up, like hood. I'm in Tuxedo Court, like East Side. You look like you're in like an African beautiful museum. So what is going on with your wall? Let's start off with that. It's stunning.
Yeah, so this is actually, so it's funny. You're at your parents' house. I'm actually at my parents' house as well, quarantining.
Yeah.
And in Rexdale, shout outs, you West Side.
Shout out East Side, West Side. Yeah.
So I'm in the hood as well. And yeah, so this is my original bedroom.
Same.
So
I
this
grew
is
up in this bedroom. Did you?
yeah. So pretty much for a good chunk of my life. So this is actually like a lot of old work that you're seeing actually behind me. Minus these two pieces. This art piece is actually from a friend of mine and someone whose father was like a mentor to me, Daniel Hartman. He's like a legendary Rastafari artist who did like work for Dennis Brown, et cetera, et cetera. So that's his son work. His name is Atto. And so he made that piece and gave it to me. And then that piece was just a gift of Egyptian goddesses doing their thing. And then, yeah, old painting from 2009. And then, yeah.
Beautiful. It's so inspiring. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Humble beginnings, yeah.
Same. But that's what keeps us grounded, right?
100%.
Yeah. So what made you decide to go home to your parents' house to the quarantine? Let's start off with today's world. We are in social isolation number 2. How is it going for you? Walk me through, how you're doing right now and how you're doing, since the beginning.
Yeah. So I had COVID. And being home just made the most logical thing to do because I had the space, but also there's a community garden here. And also I have my own herbs here. So I just knew it's the best place for me to be to nurse myself back to health. Also, I have bronchitis from back in the day of too much smoking. So I knew worst case scenario, like, you know what I mean? Like my parents got me, like, you know what I mean? They knew all the Jamaican remedies. They'll pour white rum on me or whatever, all the things that's necessary, Tiger Balm and, all the things that all the things that doctors would not think of, like, you know what I mean? And give me the bush
and
medicine.
Prayer.
Yes. And that was the main thing. So so I left Montreal and came here during that time period to just fully nurse myself back to health, but also just really tap into the next step of my creative ventures because we have quite a few things in the works. And so, it's good to be here.
You know what? I totally feel you. I came home for the same reason. I was like, if there is a pandemic and the world is ending, I want to be in the hood with my parents in tuxedo court, because at the end of the day, that's true love. You really can't find that anymore. Thank God we have our families. And so why be apart from them? And sometimes I felt a little uncool because I left downtown. I live in Queen West to come here, but there's just a sense of calm, just being, I guess, where we both started. If we're going back to the beginning of creation, let's be with our parents. So that's amazing. But you're okay now though. Are you still?
Yeah, it's just I got bronchitis, so it's like it's hard to, well, it's not that hard now, but it was hard to like really differentiate between like a dry cough and a wet cough. And then like the whole hysteria, like the whole like panic around like the question of like, did you cough lately? And I'm like, yo, woman, I've been coughing since I was 15 years old. Let's be specific. Was there a cough with mucus or was there a dry cough? You know what I mean? Like, well, they ain't looking at that. They're like, but I understand it. I'm glad that I'm feeling better and feeling optimal, testing negative and what's not.
Okay.
Thank God. Sending prayers, just sending prayers to those who have it and those who got it worse,
Thank God. And thank God you're okay. And talk me through social isolation. How was it for you this whole year? And now we're back at it again. Like, how did you feel during the time?
Just been really blessed. Really, like it hasn't sunk in, hasn't really fazed me just because my family is the way they are, and then my partner is just so amazing. And just never making me feel like I'm missing out in the world. But also as an artist, like it's been the best thing ever. Like people are seeing my name pop up all over the place. It's because like you're now seeing like we call it the watch the duck effect, you know? So it's like the duck on its surface level is just chilling, it's just moving gracefully, just, you know what I mean? But then behind, under the water, is just, you know, under the water is just,
yeah.
So that's me, you know what I mean? Like, I'm driven by my inner child and also healing that inner child, but also helping other people's inner child. So in this moment in time, I see so much pain, I see so much hurt, and I see there's so much room for healing. And so I'm that duck, you know what I mean? Like, me working away is just knowing that like I'm contributing to like a better world and even if it's a small way, you know. I'm just so inspired right now. And so I'm really grateful to see how the work that I be creating is reaching people, and just, yeah, again, people are seeing the watch the duck effect of like, yeah, the work just being recognized now.
So you are definitely on fire, but it's like what Jay-Z says, preparation meets opportunity.
Facts,
you know,
100%.
And I think the universe has your back. You told me that you wrote down what you wanted in a partner, and you literally found that because you had the clear intention.
100%.
And so talk to me about what your artistic practice looks like, you know, all the way from the beginning, starting from, I want to know who Quentin was as a child, because I can guarantee with your fashion, you were an artist as a child.
Oh, 100%.
Tell me about that.
100%.
Like, your outfits, I have to see your outfits. They're the best.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So it's funny because like I stole my outfits now, like everything I wear now is like came from my grandfather. Like that's like my swag now is my grandfather's swag.
So but cool.
Yeah, as a child I was quiet. I was really observant, but like I was troublesome, you know, because I had a lot of energy, but I didn't know what to do with the energy, you know, and I often found myself just getting into little mischief, you know. But it was, I would say, yeah, art was my saving grace, because like back when like I'll get into fights when I was at Green Home or in kindergarten or junior kindergarten, like instead of saying like, oh, Quentin, take a time out and be isolated, it's like, okay, I'm gonna give you a pencil and some paper, and I know that's what's gonna have you in the zone. And I was really fortunate to have like teachers who understood me in that way, you know, because other teachers wanted me to be on Ritalin and all these different things, like, you know, like they try to tell my parents to put me in a special ed class and all these different things. And I had one teacher, her name is Miss Bunn. Never forget that name, Miss Bunn.
Miss Bunn.
Yeah, Miss Bunn. She was like one of the first ones who recognized like my artistic, how I was artistically inclined. And I was only picking on other kids and causing trouble because I was so far ahead of them, you know? So I would like already have the math equations done. I will already have whatever assignment done, and because I'm bored, because I'm not challenged, I'm then now whatever, you know. And so her way was like, okay, Quentin, go play with the building blocks. Can you make me a house? And I'm like, oh, soft things. And then she'll give me another challenge, you know. And so yeah, and then when I got involved into like some less positive things, being involved in like some stuff in the streets, I was doing graffiti, you know. So that was a way of like actually keeping me out of trouble, or too deep of trouble, was because a lot of people respect the work I was doing. So they're like, yo, Q, yo, can you design me a tattoo? Or yo, Q, can you do this and that? So I was literally around killers and drug dealers and stuff, and some really not so positive people. But because I was that light amongst them, they made sure I didn't get involved in certain things, you know, or too deep involved in certain things. So they would look out for me in certain ways that other people didn't get that look out for, you know, especially the older heads.
And so, how did you find that? How did you find that light though?
Yeah,
it's easy to not.
100%. My grandfather. I'll give the credit to my grandfather and my parents. You know, my parents instilled a lot of. I guess they just really instilled like this idea of like you're not your personality, but your virtues is what's going to take you far, you know, and who you are inside is what's going to take you far. And I was always a people person, and I always was, I love good stories. And my grandfather was an amazing storyteller, and he used to tell me like a lot of Nancy stories and a lot of like these West African / Caribbean stories that always had like some deep meaning to it. And his favorite saying was, after the end of a story, he'll be like, yo, you overstand or understand? Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you get what I'm saying, or are you internalizing what I'm saying, you know? And so I was very fortunate to overstand, because when he's telling me these stories, I'm imagining it in my mind, you know, and then I'll draw it and I'll show it to him. And I'm like, look, Grandpa, look, I overstand, like, you know?
Wow.
And, so one of the things that when he passed away when I was 16, which was a big pivotal moment in my life, the biggest thing beyond his passing was seeing his legacy, you know, seeing how the community came out for him, you know? And it had me thinking, like, when I pass away, like who would show up for me? You know, what would people have to say about me, you know, especially about my character, but especially about like my contributions. You know, my grandfather fixed bikes for people in the community, and even though my dad brought him to Canada and stuff, like he always checked for people back home and just looked out for people and was very selfless, you know, and that was something that really resonated with me no matter what situation I was in later on in life. So art was kind of like, art for me is my equivalent to my grandfather telling stories and fixing bikes.
And just to go back about when you said back home, is that, what cultural background are you from?
Yeah, Jamaican. I'm Jamaican.
Amazing. Wow. And how did your parents react to you wanting to be an artist?
They thought I was still on drugs. But their thing was like, you know what? You being an artist is better than the other options that you were trying to explore before, you know? Just being involved in certain companies and just being involved in certain activities. They're like, you know what? That's something that I don't think you'll get shot for, you know? Or that's something that I don't think police will pick you up off the street for, you know? So, yeah, they were pretty embracive, yeah. Especially because I had a plan. Like I had a plan, and like, as I went through the door, like as I got involved into the art scene, like it was immediately about workshops and teaching other youth from my neighborhood in Rexdale about art, you know? So I started off with a chess and art program for youth, young offenders, and basically trying to encourage them to think a step ahead, you know? Because art is about being able to have a vision and see what's in your mind into manifestation, into real life. So you need to be able to be like, okay, if I want to make what I have in my mind real, I need to see that on whatever canvas or whatever it is that I'm using. So then I got to see myself being able to act these things out and go step by step, you know? And so that's the same thing with chess. And so I was trying to give them transferable skills, essentially. And it was a great program. It ended abruptly because of a shooting. But also I was just also doing so many things. So I had to let go of something at a time. So yeah, unfortunately, yeah, it just ended abruptly because of all that.
Amazing. I mean, it sounds like you were a cultural leader, you know, from a young age. And talk me through how your practice evolved and how, you know, you got into it sort of full time.
Yeah, 100%. Like, so I tell people this all the time and I laugh about it, but it's not a laugh thing. Like it's in me, in the sense of like, it's in my blood to be a hustler, you know, like in a sense of like.
But you're like such a nice hustler.
Exactly. But the thing is, like, I know hustling has a negative connotation, but it's like, I'm going to work at something until it works. You know what I mean? My grandfather used to say, water that is persistent can pierce a stone, you know? And so that's—
Okay, what's your grandfather's name?
Rupert Jeepers.
Okay, that's a serious name. I feel like you're gonna have a monument for him one day.
One day, for sure.
Or a stamp. So Grandpa Rupert.
Yeah, Grandpa Rupert. Grandpa Jeepers, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So, okay, so your persistence came through.
Yeah, and so the persistence allows me to see success in different ways. And so, like I said, I came in doing the program, and like immediately I was able to create like a sustainable living, you know? And for me, I'm just like, yo, like I don't put all my eggs in one basket. That's never how I ever been. So it just translated into different streams of income, you know what I mean? In the sense of like what I might create in the workshop might end up being an actual finished art piece that I might sell as a print, then boom, 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 boom. And like there's all these different ways I was creating a sustainable living for myself. And I just knew like what I was doing was a part of the calling of what I was meant to be doing because of the way the doors open up, you know what I mean? So the evolution.
You were in flow state.
Yeah. And the evolution that came along with that, or that complemented that, was in relations to just continuing with the flow, you know? So if you think of a river, you know, the river picks up power based on the curves, you know, based on the curves in gravity, you know, what is being gravitated towards. And so, I was constantly being gravitated towards people who will help me grow, situations that will help me grow. And as long as I continue to be embracive of that and being mindful of my purpose here on the earth, it just continued to open up more doors. So becoming a full artist was like immediate. Like I came back to Toronto in 2009 after
From
living in the
Montreal?
States. No.
In the States.
Yeah, so quick blip. I don't talk about it a lot, but like my mom, I got in a lot of trouble, a lot of issues. There was death threats and blah, blah, blah. And like potentially facing like police charges and all these different things. It was crazy. And my mom was able to work something out where I was able to do a deferment program in the States. I went to school in upstate New York. And while I was there, that's really where I was just like, yo, like, what are you doing, Q? Like, you know, this is not it, you know? And then, I went through a crazy, one day you'll see it in the movie, but I went through a crazy, like Tony Montana, like life where I left New York, went to Orlando, and just like got exposed to a lot of different things, saw a lot of different things, and I had to make a choice. And that choice allowed me to be here now. So I came back. I was gone for almost like a little bit over 2 years. And like within that 2 years, came back to Toronto and saw all the man them doing the same thing. Everybody was on the same vibe, but I was different, you know, and I was not the same person. I saw way too much to be the same person. And I also saw my purpose, you know, I saw my purpose and I made the choice to choose my purpose. And that what kept me alive and allowed me to come back with new eyes. And then that's where I was like, yo, you know what? There's so much things I can do to help. There's so many things I can do, and there's so many things I want to do to help my community and help those around me and those who came up from the same place I came from. But the thing that I was being called to do was art, you know, because it's like, yo, you are thinking just your block radius. You're just thinking Malton, Rexdale. Like you're just thinking that small parameter. And it's like, yo, you know, the universe was like, nah, like the globe, you know, like the world, you know, which led to me later on finding being one of the founders in a movement that is now a global wide movement, Black Speculative Arts Movement. And, being at the forefront of Afrofuturism, et cetera, et cetera. So I say all that to say, like, just being in the flow of things and just being open and just knowing that I had a purpose, really, you know, is what allowed for that growth to happen. And really, again, the hustle mentality of like, or just like the work and the persistence, let me use that. So people will be like, oh, hustler mentality, you know? The persistence of like wanting to grow creatively and express my creative ideas and what I'm inspired to create just naturally led to a progression of where I'm at now as a creative.
So it sounds like you're an artist, but you're also an educator. You're also a social worker of sorts. So am I. It's interesting that there's a lot more social workers popping up, you know, in the art world. So talk to me about your practice itself, because when I look at your work, I feel like I'm entering into another world. Like there's clues there, there's messages 100%. There. And I'd love for you to talk me through, like, what goes through your mind? Because I can only imagine, how do you start thinking about your process? I mean, you talked about listening to that inner voice. You have a vision, you have intention, your intention sounds like you want to really advance society and make it a better place for humankind. But I'd love to hear from you, like, what's your process like, and how can we understand a Quentin VerCetty work? Us
Jeez.
layman people, because it's like Star Wars shit, man.
I mean, the first art piece I'll talk about is a self-portrait. It's called Baba Garvey, Feeling Like Ezekiel. We're gonna pull it up actually. And essentially, like, my process is research-based, so I start off with meditating. Meditating became a really big thing for me, especially knowing that I had what they called ADD. But the ADD wasn't a hindrance, I mean? It was just like recognizing that, like, I just had to rechannel my energy.
I love that. You didn't let those labels.
Oh yeah, 100% not.
Yeah.
And so so I recognize meditation as a form of prayer, but you're listening, where prayer is actively you're asking to be listened to. And so and that's where I kind of connect with my ancestors, and connect with my inner spirit and my inner peace, and that's where I usually will see the vision of what I need to create, and then I'll research it, because oftentimes I'll see things that I'll be like, yo, what was that, and then I'll research and I'm like, oh, this was inspired by blah 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 blah. And then that's also how I know when I'm connected into a higher source or into like a bigger inspiration than just like what I might be going through in life, and so
it comes to you as an image, and then you go backwards to decode that image.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I actually coined a term in my book that I'm gonna speak about later called Sankophonology, and there's essentially the term defined as how the past, present, and future is connected. And so in my meditation, I'm within this stream of consciousness where the past, present, and future is all one, if that makes sense. And so it's like the internet. It's like the internet. Like on the internet, there's no time, because if you're in the other side of the world and I'm here on the other side of the world, like, we're experiencing the sensation of communication at the same time, even though the time in our respective places are different, but on the internet, the time is the same. So essentially in that meditative state, I'm tapping into that stream of, like, I'm communicating with people from maybe 10,000 years from ago, or maybe 10,000 years from now, and they're like telling me, like, okay, yo, this is the message that you need to deliver in this moment in time, and from there I go into research, and then just start to build up the world that I was exposed to. So this piece, Baba Garvey, Feeling Like Ezekiel, it's a prophetic piece where I was mentally and financially and health-wise at my lowest point. Like, I was stressed out by school. This is what was at OCAD. A teacher told me, like, yo, like, if you don't start painting like classical artwork, then you're never gonna make it as an artist. You should drop out of the thesis program and go and study in Florence. And like, she was ripping my work apart. She's like, you should stop painting Black people because you don't know how to paint Black skin. And
you're kidding.
She was ripping me up. And I started to internalize it, and I was getting frustrated with myself because I was like, yo, like, I know what I'm capable of. I know what I'm called to do, but here is this barrier that I'm facing that I'm feeling defeated by, And
so is this you in the work?
Yeah, so this is me. And so I decided to meditate. Boom, I meditated, and the vision that I saw was one of my ancestors. I didn't see the face, but he put this column down into the ground. Ground shook, and then the statue formed, right? And then from the statue, the thing came spewing out, and I recognized instantly the statue was me. And And I was like, yo, that's crazy. Like this statue is dope, like, you know? And it's actually what started me, it's actually what started my interest in public monuments, because I started to look around downtown Toronto for monuments of Black people, you know? And I was like, yo, there's no monuments. I couldn't find, I could spend like a month looking around, researching, and I couldn't find any. And then during that time period, public art, there was a public art exhibit that happened. I think it's called My City, My Art. And they did a survey of all the public arts pieces downtown Toronto. So I was like blessed. That made my life so much easier in terms of research. And I was going through all, like, it was like 600 images. Went through all 600 images, no images of any Black people, no references to no Black people. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. And then I went to South Africa. I remember going to South Africa prior to that. And I was like, yo, it was crazy how many monuments I saw in South Africa. Then I went to Jamaica that same year, and I was just shocked of how many monuments I saw in Jamaica of like just like history and stuff like that. And so just to keep this short, I just decided in that moment in time when I meditated and I was feeling that barrier of like being told like, no, Q, you're going to be monumental. Like, don't listen to what anyone else has to say. Like, you are the ruler of your destiny, you know, and you have the choice in this moment in time based on what you just saw to rise to the occasion. And so this piece is basically set, like there's a lot of references in it, and it can be a whole talk within itself. But Baba Tunde was my great grandfather's name, and he is of Ewe descent, from the ways of Benin through Ghana. And he came to Jamaica in the 1700s, and I was able to trace like what boat he came on and how many Ewe people he came. Wow. So that was my direct lineage back to Africa. So that was amazing to find out, because like I said, I went to Jamaica that year. And so I went to the National Library and I was like able to find out all this information. So that's the Baba part. Marcus Garvey was a visionary, you know. He's Jamaica's first national hero. And he always had a vision for Black people, but for the world itself, you know, where, you know, he saw a world where Black people are empowered by themselves, for themselves, but also we can all work and coexist together, you know? And he had this whole philosophy of like, you can only do that if we know who we are based on our heritage of being a people of African descent. And so for me, I started to connect my experience in South Africa in 2011 to my experience in Jamaica in 2015. And I was just like seeing all these parallels, you know, and seeing all these like different connections. And so feeling like Marcus Garvey is seen as a prophet amongst the Rastafari community, because he predicted the coming of Haile Selassie and predicted Pan-Africanism and kind of gave us direction, you know, so people see him as a prophet and as a hero. And so the same way in the Bible, and in not in only the Bible, but the Quran and Torah, the prophet Ezekiel saw a vision of dry bones, and the bones came alive based on the words that was spoken, you know. And for me, that's art, you know. The art brought the people back to life, you know, and resurrected and allowed the people to remember who they were. And I realized that was my purpose, you know, to be all of that, you know, in the sense of like using my art to bring back life into an institution that's sucking the life out of people, you know. And so that's me spewing out. That's me spewing out all the negativity. Wow. And that art piece won an award, and it started Black Future Month at OCAD, and it just propelled a lot of different things.
Amazing. And this is something you created by yourself on the computer, like a digital sort of program that, you were.
So this is a combination. So this is my first piece that I made in this style, and it's a combination of actual painting. So I painted the background, and then I layered the 3D rendering of myself. I 3D scanned myself, and then I designed it. And the actual bust is the bust of Goddess of Victory, Nike. And so also like this idea of like tapping into my feminine energy to be able to create and to bring life, you know?
Your work is like almost like another world. And it's like a world of freedom, a world of possibility, a world of no limits. And it's like, if people are engaging in your work feels alive. And it's almost like an alternative way of existing, of possibilities. And so that's what's super, I think draws you right in. And I'm curious what that professor said. Did you tell that prof lady who was like busting your balls? Like, look at what I just made.
She hated it. She hated this piece. She hated it. And it's funny because that following year she got fired. So she's no longer at OCAD. And so she hated it, especially the fact that it got nominated for an award and it was getting so much recognition, and she just hated it. And I made sure like I started to do more work that way, because of like the way that everyone else was gravitating towards it, and it kind of filtered out those who I didn't need, in the sense of like those who were against the movement, the flow.
Well, in a way,
I was able to start exhibiting it into public space.
Yeah, and in a way, it was good that happened because you tapped into this new work, and she was probably just scared. So many people it's fear-based, right? And that because they know there's something powerful, but people like you, you're not scared of power. In fact, power is good, but some people are afraid of that. And you're starting a whole new movement here, which is amazing. So yeah, let's go into the next work. I'd love to see what else you have and how your work has evolved. Because this was your first work, and so now it moved into public art, which is huge. Congratulations.
Absolutely. So the next slide is just basically taking over Celebration Square. So I got really interested into sharing and taking over public space, because I felt art should be accessible.
Yeah.
And so that was the first time Celebration Square is like Dundas Square. It's like the Times Square of Mississauga.
Yeah.
And so that was the first time that they showed artwork on the screen. So that was, again, another groundbreaking thing that I was able to make happen, but based on just being in the flow of things, So the work continued to evolve, and I was able to exhibit actually at the AGO, which started my relationship with the AGO. If you want to go to the next slide. And so I wanted to represent young people, I wanted to represent what I felt like was missing in monument work. I was like, there's so many monuments of people who have done whatever, but like, what about them? What about the monuments that just show the potential, just celebrate young people, you know what I mean? Because I felt like young people need to see themselves as being monumental. Just like I had that moment of seeing myself monumental, I was like, yo, young people need to see themselves. And it can be something as simple as, yo, you decided to apply yourself in school. It can be something as simple as, yo, you decided to use your voice or your talent to uplift your community, And so this art piece is of a young lady named Brighton from the Remix Project that I was a part of. Sorry, not the Remix Project, from Lost Lyrics, which was an organization founded by Amanda Pierce, the great Amanda Pierce.
Yeah, she's amazing.
So she was just like a young lady who went through a lot of hardship, and I really wanted her to see herself the way that we all as a staff saw her greatness, And needless to say, it changed her whole demeanor. Like, yo, she really started to see herself as a queen after that, and she started to do such an amazing stuff after that. And I was able to exhibit it.
I was going to say, what you've tapped into is basically what ancient Greek and Egyptians did. They made the potential of themselves, because they're always saying, this is not what this person looked like. This is not what that person looked like, And so you've tapped into that same energy of how they want to be revered for centuries and centuries and centuries, to come. And so you really broke all of those molds, and you brought out like the potential. And so I think that's really, really phenomenal. And as you said, it probably changed her life.
Yeah.
Seeing that that's the piece of her that was immortalized. It's the potential.
Yeah, absolutely. And
then how did you started mixing with like AR, VR and that type of a world, was to bring the piece to life? Tell me about that process.
So the whole idea of going into 3D was, again, based on a vision that I saw, but also just seeing where youth attention is right now, you know? And they're very much in their phones, they're very much in their devices, they're very much in a digital world, you know? And to me, it only made sense to be able to create the vision that I had of worlds that I'm being shown by creating them digitally, you know? And so also, again, being persistent and also understanding the flow of things is like, I have to move fast, you know, and painting for me was too slow. And also I was just being mindful of like having to be able to create something and then add to it, you know. Picasso said art is never finished, it's only abandoned. So that's kind of how I got into it. So if you want to go to the next slide.
And also, Quentin, it's almost like that hyper energy that you had as a child has served you and it's pushed you, you know, to deepen your practice, to keep going. Now you're like, okay, technology is here, I have to get ahead of the game. And that served you over and over again. So anybody who gets labeled as anything when you're a child, it's actually a gift, you know.
Absolutely. And so the thing that I really was attracted to about digital work was that the potential of it is endless. Again, it's like art is not finished, it's only abandoned, you know what I mean? So what I could do with these digital works is endless. Like once I paint something, I'm limited to just that canvas, and then I have to repaint the canvas and When I sculpt something, I'm limited to what I just physically sculpted, and then, you know, if I want to add to it, I'm limited to what I can add, you know? And so I really love this idea of endlessness. And so this art piece was made in response to what's happening in the pandemic right now. And that is originally was meant to be an augmented reality piece. But then it ended up being commissioned to be used for a billboard. So if you want to go to the next slide. And so I just really love the fact of like taking something itty bitty on my little computer and then blowing it up all big, like, you know? And so with augmented reality, it's like, yo, now you're giving that power into someone else's hands, you know, because they can scale things to be as huge as they want it to be, or as small as they want it to be. And it can be now in your space. Now it's more personal.
That's amazing. And you've tapped into the reason why conceptual art is so, I think, interesting is that it's in your mind and you can't control that space, you know, and that can, as you said, it's a global reach. And so you've tapped into this energy through your technology and through the potential that's cannot ever be enslaved, cannot ever be taken from you. It's like the pure potentiality, which goes beyond just what you see. So can you tell us more about how people can learn? Because, you know, when we see that, it's phenomenal, but you have so many layers to your work. And I know you have a book coming out. So tell us, like, how can people get their hands on it? What's your book about? And is it sort of a deeper dive into your amazing brain? Because I hope so.
So again, the book came to me in 2017, just recognizing like this movement was happening. If you want to jump to the next slide, the movement was happening with BSAM. We're traveling all over the world, and things were just moving in Canada. Like we did like several events. You know, Michael Jean was at one of our events, and you know, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau also spoke at one of the events, and it was just like it was just growing exponentially. You know, we did in Halifax, Edmonton, Montreal, Vancouver, Ottawa, Toronto, and it was just reaching people, and I was just like, yo, this needs to be documented, because there's so many things, that happens within our communities, people of color's communities, and it gets erased because it doesn't get documented.
It's true.
And so I was just like, yo, Raptors just won. And we are now seeing ourselves in Toronto and in Canada in a whole different light. You know, we're seeing our potential for the world to see us the way that we want to be seen. And so that's what this book's about. We're changing the gaze. And that's what this book's about. So this book is a little small glimpse of like my mind, but it's not even about me. It's featuring 30 writers from across Canada. and has the artwork of over 100 Black Canadians.
Wow.
And it's the first Black, well, not just the first Black, but it's the first book on Canadian Afrofuturism anywhere. And it was co-edited by myself and Audrey Hudson. And we have an introduction by the great pioneer, trailblazing goddess, Nalo Hopkinson, and the amazing high priestess, I call her, Zainab Amadani. And so this book, oh man, like it's not even history, it's like herstory, because the women in the book, like it's majority women in the book who are writing and contributing. And they all just like brought a new way of understanding Afrofuturism from a Canadian perspective, which is about coexisting, you know. It's not just seeing only a future with African people, you know. It's not seeing a future where Black people are here and then everybody else is over there. It's a future where we're coexisting, because we recognize, like in Canada, we have to acknowledge the Indigenous population. We have to acknowledge the Indigenous and First Nation ancestors and how our ancestors worked together, you know, the allyship that happened, you know, from Matthew DaCosta and before, you know, and even after, you know. And so our future is their future and their future is our future, you know. And just there's so many beautiful articles in this book.
Are there images, and are they all your work, and are they, you know, write-ups about the work, or is it like a compilation of multiple artists' work?
Yeah, it's a compilation of over 100 artists' works.
Oh, right.
And,
okay.
And they're complementing the writings of the 30 writers from across Canada. So
awesome.
It's like articles, you know. It's more like articles where different people are speaking on different topics and different ideas.
Got it.
Artwork
Okay.
is complementing the writing. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, got it. And what would you say is the essence of the book? Is it about, like you said, this new world, or the world that already exists, or what do you think is the intention behind it?
Yeah, I think it gives greater context to the consciousness that here in Canada that we're tapping into, you know. So we divided the book into 3 parts based on themes, and each theme, or each section, I should say, really speaks to the diversity of Canada, diversity of like, because often when we think about Black people, we think of it as a monolith, right? We think of Black people as just like one type of people, and we don't recognize it's actually multicultural within that term itself.
Yeah.
Right? And so each section just really highlights that, you know, that there's different Afrofutures, you know. There's different ways that people are speculating about how we can exist and how we can be represented, and each person is just, you know, sharing their piece.
And I know she's holding that pure potentiality right on the cover, which is super exciting.
Yeah.
So if you were to define Afrofuturism to you, what does it mean to you? Because I know you use futurites as well.
Yeah. So I define it as the imagining and the imaginative, or the acts of imagining and reimagining the ways that African people can exist from inspiration that comes from Africa resources. That's include the land, that includes the history, that includes the people, that includes the traditions, the culture, et cetera. And that's the easiest way I can explain it. It's just imaginative. It's about creativity, you know. But I don't want to pigeonhole it because it's so vast, you know. But it's all of it is about creativity and about the evolution, you know. It's about seeing things that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
Or seeing things that we have seen, but in a new way, in a new context. Because for some people's work, it's not only about the future, but it's about reimagining the past, you know. As Nella Hopkinson does in a lot of her work. Sometimes it's fantasy and it's rewriting a whole new history, you know. So like for example, Wakanda is a good example. with Black Panther. It's not in the future, it's in the present day, but it's seeing Africa or African nation in a whole new way, so that's kind of like the example that I like to spew out to people.
And do you get excited when people start to interpret your work? Like, do you get excited hearing how other people make meaning out of your work?
Oh yeah, 100%. As a teacher, especially working at the AGO for the time that I have been, we use this thing called VTS, which is visual teaching strategies. And it's like, we bank on connectivism and constructivism. And so that means like, I'm looking to you, Umbereen, to tell me what you understand. So I'm teaching you, or I'm trying to understand what do you understand when you see something, because you have your own construct of things that you understand based on your experience, based on your education. And I can only teach, or I can only know how my work is valid based on how it connects to your constructs, you know what I'm saying? Or how you connect to it. And so for me, I just get mind blown when people see deeper things than I originally intended, because then I'm like, okay, boom, shout out to the ancestors, boom, shout out to the universe.
Wow.
They did it again,
Yeah. And it's great that you can step back and be involved in that meaning making process, knowing it's both, it's dual. And so let's move to this year, everything that's gone on, all the truths that are coming out, bringing light to BLM and all the things. And you have this amazing monument of Joshua Glover.
Yes.
So please, okay, first of all, congratulations. huge, massive honor. I don't know what energy you're tapped into. I hope to get some of that. We can bottle it up. But walk me through this, like, massive honor, especially announced in this year. Like, I attended a workshop once in Miami Art Basel, and they said, what brings an artist value or an artwork value is what was going on during the time. And they were like comparing like two Warhols, and one Warhol sold for like millions and then another Warhol didn't. And so for you to drop this work during this year is huge, not only in terms of historical significance, but, the value that you're bringing to the world, with Black people being able to see themselves in a monument in Toronto that has never happened before, ever. So how does that feel to you, first of all, especially during what's going on in the world? And how did this happen? Congratulations again.
Thank you. Yeah, it's again, just tapping into the right, just being in the flow of things, and it was bizarre. It was by accident, to be honest. It was not even by accident. I can't say it's by accident.
Synchronicity.
It was synchronous. Oh my goodness, It was synchronicity because I didn't know about the call out. And my friend told me about it, and I was like, yeah. And I didn't think it was real. I was like, what? Canada? What? This is not happening in Toronto. Like, nah. And so my friend's like, yo, just submit something and see, And so me being me, I was like, yo, let me meditate first, see a thing, and then do my thing, And so this was the first thing I saw. A man pushing forward towards history, and he's going through a portal. And I was like, whoa. I was like, yo, there's no way I can create something that people are gonna approve of in this way, And it was crazy because I didn't know what Joshua Glover looked like. I mean, no one knew what Joshua Glover looks like, truly.
Yeah.
But I never saw the renderings, like the sketches of him before I had the vision.
Oh wow.
And so when I saw the pictures that they had of Joshua Glover in Wisconsin and in St. Louis, I was like, yo, that's what I saw. Like, I was like, yo, this is crazy.
Wow.
And so
amazing.
I quickly read the submission stuff, and I had 3 concepts. And this is what I put as an actual last concept. The first 2 concepts was like one was just like the head, and the other one was just completely abstract. And it was just like it was more interpretive, you know. But I was using the indigenous symbols, specifically the Sankofa symbol, which you see at the bottom, which looks like the heart shape. And then yeah, I just got the call, and they were like, "Yo, that one, that's the one." And I was like, "Really?" Because
who called you? Was it someone from the city? Yeah.
Yeah, someone from the city. And it was crazy because, again, you're like you're saying, it's about what happened during the time period. I was supposed to be going to Berlin because I just got accepted into Monument Lab Fellowship. And so I flew to Toronto from Montreal to catch my flight to go. And that's the day they grounded all the flights. This is like in March. They grounded all the flights because boom, breakout. Da, 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 da. And I was like, yo. So I called my parents to be like, yo, I'm at the airport. Can you pick me up? And they came and picked me up. And then as they picked me up, that's when I got the phone call.
Oh my God.
Hey, Quentin, we unanimously we picked this design. Boom, 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 boom. And I was like, yo, what design? Because I completely forgot about it. You know what I mean? I completely forgot about it. I was like, yo, what design? They're like, yo, this, da, 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 da. And I was like, are you serious? And it was crazy because this was the first thing I created, but it's the thing I spent the least amount of time on. The two other designs that I put, I spent like maybe days on that, to the point where I got like upset, and I was just like, yo, this is all I'm gonna do. Boom, that's it. I'm gonna send this in, you know? Because again, I didn't think it was gonna actually happen. And I was just like, yo, no one's gonna pick my work. I was like self-doubting. And then I just got over it at a certain point. I was just like, yo, whatever, you know? So anyways, when that happened, I was just like, yo, this is crazy because this whole piece is about transformation. And here I am in the midst of a transformation where the world is about to transform. And and this piece is about to happen, you know? So it was
it's incredible. Surprise. What a blessing. And the whole world needs to know who Joshua Glover is. So, you know, you're going to make that happen, which is incredible. And I know we don't have a lot of time. We have like a couple more minutes. So the monument's launching next year, right?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. And amazing. And there's flowers. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to notice, you know, there is flowers at the bottom of his jacket. And I know you have a strong tie to nature. So just wanted to ask you what the flower is represented.
Yeah, so each flower represents the places that he had to stay at. So the first one was St. Louis, Missouri flower, which is the state flower, the hawthorn, and that's where he was enslaved. And then the second flower is a flower for Ohio, which is the common lily, and then the last flower is the Ontario Trillium, which is where he lived the rest of his days and flourished and became the Joshua Glover that we know and love.
Oh my God. Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. Again, codes.
Yeah. You know, and the thing is, for me, I saw the flowers originally, you know, like,
wow.
And I didn't know. Like, I saw the Trillium and I knew it was a Trillium, and I was like, okay, maybe this has something to do with something, you know, and it was just crazy to look it up, and I was like, oh my goodness, there you guys go again, you know. But the flowers on a deeper level just represents growth and transformation, you know. And seasons, you know, and right now we're in a season of change.
And beauty, right? Beauty through that change and growth, which is the hardest. So, I mean, it's Quentin's world, and I wish we could all live in it. So let me just see if there's any questions on the chat. I think we're okay. And we are at 5 o'clock, so I believe we have to go. So thank you so much. I love talking to you. So whenever you're like telling me that you're busy, or I'm just gonna be like, please rest. No.
I'm so rested. I get energy from the work that I do, you know, and taking care of myself is an important part, you know, and I always encourage people to take care of themselves.
Amazing.
I just don't sleep much. That's all it is.
Well, the meditation that you do, you know, is amazing. So we have one question: where is this monument going to be erected?
Yeah, so the park is actually called Joshua Glover Park. It's by Dundas and Bloor area. And
awesome.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be, I think.
And that was from Deborah. So thank you, Deborah. And that's going to be, we're targeting next year, right? Do we know when that we think it's going to go up?
I know when, but I can't say.
Yeah. Oh, another secret. Okay, well, we will follow you on the gram and through Monument Lab, and congratulations on your amazing life. I think there's another question. I'm going to just pull this up. So cool about time. Thank you, Deborah. Really appreciate your comments. All right, Quentin.
All right.
Thank you so much
for your time and energy.
Oh my God. Yes. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, AGO. Thank you, Quentin, for walking us through your incredible brain. And I cannot wait to see what's next. I'm going to be like, is that him? And that was a Mission Impossible? I'm going to be like,
I mean, I don't think the sky is the limit. I don't think the sky is the limit. So I'm excited.
Oh, you're going to be like climbing the Burj Khalifa next to like Tom Cruise. All right. Okay, awesome. Right. Thanks so much.
Beautiful, you're everyone.
True inspiration. And according to you, there are no limits. So that's the biggest takeaway. Yeah, love it. All right. Thanks so much. Have a good night. Okay, bye-bye.